All right. We welcome everyone here tonight, but it is now time to start the March 18th meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to welcome any visitors, any media that might be here, but I'd also like to ask anyone who's got their cell phone to please turn it to silent. I don't think there will be any pagers anymore. They're kind of outdated, but just in case, if you'll just turn everything to silent, we would appreciate it. And we will begin this meeting with an invocation from Mr. Charles Chandler.
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you for this day and for the beautiful day you've given us today. We pray for our country, our state, our community. And Father, we pray that we would be one nation that honors God. Father, we pray for this meeting tonight that we would make decisions that are the best for all concerned. We thank you for allowing us to live in Bulloch County in Stillwater, Georgia. And Father, we just love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda will be the approval or the amendment of the minutes from the last meeting. Mr. Lane, motion to approve. Is there a second? For Mr. Bath, all those in favor? Minutes are approved as written. For those of you who may not have been here before, if you'll look to your right, you'll see that we have two clocks on the wall. Each item we have on the agenda will have 10 minutes per side, and there'll be somebody keeping top. So if there are 10 people signed up to speak, that 10th person may or may not get to. So those in front of you, just keep in mind that there are others who want to sign up and speak. With that, I'll start with the first item. LSL South Construction, LLC, has applied for a variance from Appendix C, Zoning Article 14, Supplemental Standards for Specific Uses, Section 1417. Contractor, A building or structures that shall be 250 feet from any residence. The property is located at Chanterbury Court, and Mr. Jamie Carty will be acting as the agent. Mr. Pope.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As stated, this is a variance to our Section 1417. It comes out of the supplemental standards for the specific use of contractor, in which, when we placed this in the ordinance, the 250 feet from a residence was, there's a potential there for land use conflict with adjoining property. So the property is currently zoned highway commercial. And by definition in our ordinance, a contractor is a person or firm that contracts to perform work, provides supplies, or contracts to erect buildings. Contractor is permitted to have open storage or materials, or storage of materials and equipment when located in the rear yard. This is an approximate location of the property. As you see, it's to the northeast of Statesboro, just outside of the bypass, Veterans Memorial Parkway. This is the current zoning map for the property, of which the two parcels are highlighted. Or there's two parcels, but they're highlighted in yellow along Chanterbury Court. And it is I guess the zoning goes back probably to 94, when it was anticipated there would be some commercial activity along the highway. And just to point out, as far as again location, Highway 301 North goes to the right. You turn to the right to exit the bypass and continue on 301. This is an aerial of the property. The shaded properties there, that's what is owned by the applicant. The use is requested to be on the parcel to the right So the parcel to the east, of which that adjacent parcel now has a single-family residence on that parcel. So, all right, this is the location of the property at the time we placed the zoning sign according to the zoning procedure law. And we actually posted it back in December, but due to the snowstorm, unexpected snowstorm, that's in the advertising requirements. That's why it was delayed for so long. So this is the property as it currently lies. There are some stakes. I don't know if any of you had a chance to visit the site, but there are some survey stakes out that would, I don't think necessarily outline the building, but you could kind of tell the general location of where it would be by the site map. And you can see the single-family residence of the adjoining property owner in the left of the photo. And this is looking back to the bypass. And as applied, this would be what they propose to build with the number of variances that we have tonight. And you'll see this photo throughout my presentation. But really, at this point, for this variance, it's just a distance requirement. Can you have, or is there any specific issue with the contractor as they propose to use the building? That's what's up for question. So the design of the building will come in later variances after this one. This is the site plan for the application. You see the metal building is closer to that single-family residence. I don't think there's any way to get around the 250 feet distance requirement. Just, there is a wet area on the property. Ideally, you could shift it over to the other side and have a little more buffer, but they are proposing a 30-foot buffer from the property line. I think that's really what this commission would need to consider too, is what kind of buffer are they proposing, and is that adequate in your mind? So with that, I'll ask Mr. Jamie Carty to step to the podium and present for the applicant.
And just for the record, you are aware of the condition that the county is asking you for? And you've already
Yes.
drawn it in, it's already drawn in.
Again, my name's Jamie Carty. I'll be acting as the agent for Mr. Pollard, who owns the property. Just to give you a little bit of kind of a background. So he purchased the property in July of 2023. In April of 23, 3 months prior to that, the zoning changed. There was a moratorium put on for 6 months or so, and changes went into place. And so some of that affected the use of this property. And so that's kind of where we are. There are 2 other businesses close by, right across the street, that are probably a little bit more intrusive than what he wishes to do. This is just going to be a place for him to do business out of. They don't really have customers coming to their business. It's a contractor, just as it states, but it'll be a place for them to meet in the mornings, move out, go to a job, come back in the afternoons, and have an office there too. So what he's proposing to do, if you saw, the drawings, he's wanting to do something really nice and to kind of make this home for his business. So the 250-foot variance, there's really no way possible, I think, given the width of his property, to even get 250 feet away. So we've situated the site plan to best use the property, and he's on board with the 30-foot buffer as well as a privacy fence if if that's a I think that is one of the conditions, so. And also, he chose not to put any type of doors or anything on that side of the building. So all of the activity will be on the opposite side of the building from where that residence is.
Have y'all spoken to the resident owners?
He told me that he did and that they were okay. So that was,
good to know.
I didn't hear it myself from them, but so far seems to be, we haven't heard any complaints. So.
All right, are there any questions for Mr. Carty from this group? There is no one signed up to speak in opposition.
Okay.
What kind of business hours are they gonna run out of this?
I mean, you're probably talking 7:30 in the morning to meet up and get things going, and probably during the day, there'll be hardly anyone there. But I'd say 7:30 to 5:30, something like that, which is probably comparable to the business across the street there. But they will not be performing anything on the site. Everything's off-site.
And there are only 6 parking spaces that I can see it correctly.
That's right.
Are there any other?
Will their materials be stored outside or?
No, most of his materials are delivered to the site, so it'll probably just be tools and that kind of thing unless they had an overflow, but anything would be stored inside that building. It's a pretty good sized building. And the intention is to fence in the back area, so anything that may be back there will be screened, so.
With that being said, any more questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve the variance, a second from Ms.
With the conditions?
With one, and it's only one condition I see. So,
One
yeah,
30-foot
that's 30-foot buffer.
That's right.
So that privacy fence, or talking
Okay.
about maybe, elective on your part.
Do y'all need me up here for the next two?
Probably, but
Okay.
if he goes through the same thing over again in takes 5 minutes or so, I don't know, we'll see. Anyways, all those in favor of approval? Any opposed? All right, that part of the variance, that one variance is approved. All right, second item, again, LSL South Construction LLC has submitted an application for a conditional use to operate a contractor office in a highway commercial area. The property is located on Chanterbury Court, and again, Jamie will be acting as agent. Mr. Pope.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the conditional use kind of runs along with the variance, but obviously not all highway commercial properties are going to be 250 feet within a residence. So that's just kind of how it goes with having a little more regulation in text. So really kind of the same concerns there, or potential concerns, is now you're talking, again, a contractor office just in general, whether it's in relation to the residents or any other properties as they may be zoned. Same location, same photos, and same building. Staff recommends approval with conditions, of which we have 3 for this one. And to note, one would be the conceptual site plan submittal, so that when we have basically the building plans for this structure, they'll need to come back and have a site plan approval so that you all can give your, stamp of approval for the construction of the building, really. But it's just to check that all the conditions are being met that, you all place. And this one would go to the Board of Commissioners for an approval.
Again, this is a conditional use. It will go for final determination on April 1st, 5:30 in this room. Do they meet at 5:30?
Correct.
All right, April 1st. All right, any other questions from Mr. Carr? If not, is there a motion or recommendation?
Motion to approve.
All right, Ms. Trimble, motion to approve. A second from Mr. Lane. All those in favor? All right, we recommend approval to the county commissioners, again, April 1st, 5:30. With conditions. Yes. All right, number 3. LSL South Construction LLC has applied for a variance from Appendix C, zoning Article 14, supplemental standards for specific uses, Section 1437. 40% of the parking and circulation space shall be on the sides of the building frontage. Property is located, again, on Chanterbury Court with Mr. Carty acting as agent. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This supplemental standard, now that we've assumed that we've cleared any of those prior cases, we get to address the parking for the building. I think one of the concerns from staff would be that if there was any operations early in the morning or, after dark, that headlights beaming into the single-family residence
Could you
would,
put the picture back up that shows the drawing, that shows where that parking lot was going to be?
yes, ma'am, let's see.
There. All right.
So the variance or the standard, again, says 40% of the parking and circulation space would be on the sides of the building. So that would anticipate the building probably being landscaped with grass or something in front. And again, more parking on the sides. But I believe at the amount of parking or circulation space there that is proposed would exceed that 40% amount. And so our conditions, we recommend approval with conditions that, again, you're using those entry-exit points as shown. But again, as this kind of shows, the landscaping does not go to the property line and Chanterbury Court. So is there a potential for a car, going through the space there to shine into the single-family residence? So we would just recommend that make sure that the vegetative buffer follows the property line to the roadway as permitted, and have no more than 2 entry-exit points. Not necessarily saying that the culvert pipe that's there currently has to be the exact location, but if it has to shift over a little bit, but at least I think the screening would help any of that concern that we have from headlights going over the property line.
Would we need to rewrite or reformat that second conditional to include that, or to include any more specific property line to property line, or down to the boundary of parcel is enough?
I think boundary of parcel would be
Enough,
sufficient.
okay. All right, Mr. Carty, anything?
I don't think so. And that will come up if we make it through the
The conditional
commissioners,
use?
everything. That would fall back on the approval of the site plan as well. That would be shown.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, if there's no other question, is there a motion
Motion to approve.
from Mr. Bath to approve, a second from Ms. Trimble? All those in favor? That variance is approved. Of course, these are contingent upon the outcome from the county commissioners meeting. All right, and item number 4. LSL South Construction LLC has applied for a variance from Appendix C, zoning Article 14, supplemental standards for specific uses, Section 1437. The facades over 50 feet in length shall provide wall projections or recesses with a minimum of 1.5 feet in depth and a minimum of 10 contiguous feet in length for each 50 feet. Property again is located on Chanterbury Court, and Mr. Carty will be acting as agent.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. This additional supplemental standard really tries to break up I would say what's been done in the past is just a metal building with, just looks like a square with little architectural feature on it. I'll get to the elevation here. I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Carty, but the projections that you have, like the window shades covering those windows on the front, the porch, and on the right side there, those are planned, but there's not any plan for the left side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So based on that, we recommend denial. We believe that you would need to continue the appearance on both sides. However, we do recommend a condition that, if it's approved, just sufficient landscape trees be placed on the property, which they're already planning, but we want to make sure that there's some consideration given to the building, I guess the projections out, because again, we're trying to eliminate just a square metal building. So if the board believes that we can address that with a vegetative buffer, then staff would be okay with it. But otherwise, because it kind of goes against what the ordinance is written for, then we recommend a denial. So.
Mr. Carty, is there a reason, or sufficient reason why not putting those shades on the other side of the building?
The main reason was we just didn't have any doors or windows on that side. I mean, that's certainly something that we could do, but it might look like it's just stuck on the side of the building if it's not covering a window or a door. But, I mean, I think Mr. Pollard would be open to doing that if we needed to.
It says he's open to adding awnings on the side.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, what is the purpose for windowless to put those on a windowless, just so it looks, it's
And
just for
we also felt
aesthetics?
like the 30-foot buffer was probably going to hide that side of the building anyway.
Well, and I would say there's less consideration in the plans given to that side. So if they wanted to come back later and, because we don't have a condition saying don't put a door on that side, so, or a window, if they did, then how does that look? Is it, I don't know. I mean, as it goes through the design, I guess, refinement process, and the, may look okay with landscaping, but just based on what we could tell, it's just kind of hard to see at this point.
So it's actually just for aesthetic purposes, to make it look more uniform with the rest of the building?
Correct.
Are there any questions from this board?
If you're gonna have a buffer and with the limited amount of traffic, is it gonna really matter if they put doors or windows on the side? Then you're basically on a dead end street.
Yeah, so, I mean,
Unless it affected the neighbor be the only one that really knows.
Do we need to address what kind of 30-foot buffer? Will it be a tall buffer, thick, vegetative?
I mean, that's the plan, because it's a big building, so.
And we can address that at the conceptual
site
site plan
plan.
stage,
That's
can't we?
right.
All right.
Okay. And two, I guess that buffer will extend now all the way to the property line, so that's gonna block even more of that view. But that's certainly, we wouldn't want.
Side's fenced, correct?
Well, I think the condition didn't require the fence,
Fence.
but I mean, a fence on, if we needed a fence on that front corner to kind of block that side, that's certainly.
I'm just looking at your picture here,
can't-
it looks like there's a fence in
Yeah, I think it does.
the
show
drawing
fence
anyway.
there. Yeah,
If there's a
and that
fence.
was the plan.
Okay.
But again, that can be addressed at the conceptual site plan stage.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve without the condition. Without the condition, is there a second? Second, Mr. Chandler. All those in favor? Any opposition? No, that's unanimous. That variance is approved without the condition,
Okay,
pending contingent on the county commissioners.
all right.
All right,
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Carty. All right. Item number 5. Jake Hudson has applied for a variance to Appendix C, zoning Article 14, supplemental standards for specific uses, Section 1403. C, accessory structures must be on the rear or side yard. This property is located at 113 Evergreen Drive. All right, Mr. Pope.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. This property is zoned R25. It is located within a planned subdivision. Again, this case was one that was delayed by the snowstorm, so it's been in process for some time. General location as shown on the map is on the west side of Statesboro near Forest Heights Country Club. And this is, again, the general area from the property. It's in a planned subdivision along Evergreen Drive. This is the house for the applicant. And I believe, maybe in the letter, it talks about the variance being requested is due from some storm damage that destroyed some part of the yard and the swimming pool. And so when they wanted to rebuild at least the swimming pool, they wanted to add on an additional amenity to the yard. But the issue here is that because this is a subdivision, at one time this was originally going to be a planned drive or a planned roadway. So treating it as 2 front yards as a corner lot would place the pool house in what we would consider the front yard. So the ordinance in a residential zone prohibits placing accessory structures in the front yard. So the variance, again, stems from I guess, a interpretation of that being the front yard. But I wanted to show that it is a dead-end street at this location. And this is the property when we, after we placed the zoning sign at the property. Of course, they do have a building permit for the swimming pool to be rebuilt. And, but the general area, I believe, is shown on the site plan would be just to the left or directly behind that, the basketball goal. Of course, the applicant can refine that further, but, or define it further. But this is a site plan that's, as proposed. In the green area there, that would be the pool house. And so I think the decision for the board is for that structure, is it allowable or should it be allowable to go at that location, because technically it's a front yard. So
That aerial photograph where you've got the depiction says it's 60 feet. Is that from that side picture you showed where the pool's being built, it sure looked like it was awfully close to that road. Go back.
That road is only used by
To
his
see,
residents and the resident across the street.
right, but you see, if you look at that picture there, it looks how the pool house is gonna make it look.
yeah, and again, the applicant may have to define that a little further, but just based off the site plan, that's what I'm going by. But so.
Leave that picture up if you would, number 3.
Okay. And that's all well, my recommendation is that we recommend approval. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant, Mr. Jake Hudson.
Good afternoon. How are y'all? I think, as Mr. Pope said, a lot of this stemmed from the hurricane. The pool got destroyed. So in the process of tearing it all out and redoing it, my wife came up with we had the pool house. So that's where we are today. And then coming through the permit process, applied for the variance to follow the rules, follow the regulations. So, yep, that's where we're at.
Any questions for Mr. Hudson?
I'm assuming the pool house is gonna look similar to the house.
Yes, sir. Yep, it'll match in color, roof,
Cool.
and siding.
All right. All right.
Motion to approve.
We got a motion to approve. Do I second, Ms. Chandler, a second from Ms. Trimble. All those in favor? Variance is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, you had to fight tooth and nail for it.
All right, moving on to item number 6. Now, we do have some people signed, we have several people signed up to speak for this item. And that, 1, 2, 3.
We've got to re-strategize because of the 10-minute rule. We were expecting the 3 minutes per speaker like the old days.
No, we've always had, ours has always been 10 minutes.
Well, not
Ours in the 20 years I've been here anyway. But anyways, and so there is 10 minutes, so I think your attorney can handle that very well. All right. Chelsey Enterprises Incorporated has submitted an application to rezone approximately 25 acres from Ag 5, which is an Ag 5 acres per, agricultural 5 acres per square foot, to R80, which is a residential 80,000 square feet, for the purpose of creating a single-family subdivision. The property is located on Burnside Road, and Patrick Patton will be acting as agent. Mr. Pope?
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, for general location, this is south of I-16 and southeast Bulloch portion of the county. To get a little more in detail, this is the zoning map for the property and area. There is a R80 parcel just to the west along Burnside Road, and a few other parcels scattered out here and there, as you can see, R80. Nothing of more density than an R80, but Ag 5 properties do surround the property, and adjacent properties, there is an active agricultural use on the property, and some smaller lot, single-family homes along Burnside Road. Burnside Road is a county-maintained road. As you can see here in the photo, this is at the property line, or at the property along Burnside Road. This is viewing west. This is directly across the road, viewing north. Directly across the road, again, viewing north if you're at the, standing on the property. This is the view into the property, viewing south. And let's see. I can turn the site plan on up there. I didn't realize it didn't get into the PowerPoint, but Madam Chair, if you'll allow me to put the site plan up. I know y'all have it in your staff reports.
So that helps for those in the audience.
Okay. Is that?
We can see it all.
Okay. So, again, the applicant is requesting 10 lots with an R80 rezoning. And to to conclude my portion, staff recommends approval with conditions.
All right. Mr. Patrick Patton will be speaking as an agent. If he'll come forward. We'll turn 10 minutes if we'll set the clock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chelsey Enterprises is requesting a rezone from Ag 5 to R80, as Mr. Pope has spoke. We would like to put 10 lots in this location. We're next to 114 Burnside. We're approximately 25 acres. The R zoning districts, or R80 zoning districts, are intended to establish and preserve quiet, relatively low-density neighborhoods of single-family residents as desired by a large number of people. These districts are free from use and which are incompatible with single-family homes. This project will be in accordance with the comprehensive plan of 2040 and projected growth in the suburban corridors within the projected suburban neighborhood districts. We are proposing single-family homes to be in that area, ranging from approximately 1,500 square foot and up. The homes will be on a septic system. They will have a dual community private well. The two wells are shown on the sketch plan. They'll be looped together and one may fail. The other will be a backup. The property owners will own those wells. The wells will be placed on their own parcel or parcels and deeded to the community. We request the board allow us to create an asphalt road that'll meet the current county ordinances and design criteria with a minimum of 60-foot right-of-way. We'd like to put a speed control measure placed between lots 5 and 6 due to the length of the road and county ordinance. We're currently working with UPS to see if a kiosk is required, which we have found out one is not, and void of individual mailboxes. If you'll notice around the perimeter, there's a natural vegetative buffer in the areas that there's not. We propose that, I think that's a 25 or 30-foot buffer that's required there along the sides. And then the buffer along the front of Burnson Road is a little bit different size. We've included some of the elevations that were submitted to Mr. Pope. And we just asked for you to consider this. We didn't want to go more dense, which the suburban neighborhoods will allow down to an R25. We didn't think that was appropriate for this area at the time. We thought all 40 was even too dense for this area, which, could have given us approximately 22 homes. We felt R80 was the closest that we wanted to get to breaking this property up. Ag 5 would give us some other options, which is currently zoned now, but we don't wish to explore those options at this point. If you would, give us any questions you got, we'll be glad to answer those. I'd like to defer the rest of my time.
All right, do we want any questions for him, or we want to wait till? We'll wait. Okay, thank you, Mr. Patton. You have 6 minutes and 58 seconds remaining. All right, we do have, 10 people signed up to speak, but the first one is Mr. Gene Hammerstein. You're going to defer? All right, then there's Mr. Brock Murray.
If we could change the order, I think we discussed, I don't know that I talked with Mr. Murray about it, but if I could speak first, it may hasten things and.
All right, if that's amenable to all, I'll go through everybody. You can just tell me personally. All right, Jerry Spells, defer. Jamie Jackson.
Mr. Jackson couldn't be here, but we've got a letter.
Oh, okay. Gregory Hammerstein. All right. Michael Classens.
That's me.
So come forward.
Oh. If I may approach, I mentioned the letter from Mr. Jackson. I've got 7 copies of that with another so that everybody can have their own to look at. Mr. Jackson lives, I think, kind of catty corner across the street there. It may be right next door. Mr. Hammerstein, when he speaks, will be able to verify that. Also attached there is a list that includes the names and addresses of neighbors, some of whom are here, who are in opposition. Mr. Hammerstein will testify to you that he personally contacted each and every one of these neighbors out there at least 34 different addresses in the area with perhaps as many as 50 people. Some of the signatories reside in the same home, so I didn't want to mislead anyone, but we've got people up and down Burnson Road, McCoy Road, Lawrenceville Church Road, virtually the entire surrounding area. Someone, if not everyone, has expressed their opposition to this property. Chief among their concerns is the effect on the environment, because this property is almost entirely within what FEMA calls a flood zone A, which means there's a high risk of flooding. And of course, in a case where property is located in an area like that, and you want the kind of development that is being proposed, you have to comply both with the subdivision regulations and the flood prevention, the flood damage prevention code. Now, I haven't seen the application and don't know if all of that is addressed in there, but on the departmental review, I did not see any mention specifically of anything that had been done to address those issues. And I won't try to expose my lack of expertise in terms of building and code compliance, but there are a whole lot of things in there that have to be done if one is to be ultimately approved. And while I recognize that this commission simply passes on to the board for an amendment to the zoning regulation, I still think that your recommendation carries a good deal of weight with the commissioners. And what these folks are worried about is it's already a wet area out there. All of us who live in Bulloch County are familiar. This is the lowest part of the county by and large. There's a reason why it's referred to in general as the Bay Area. The sinkhole district is out there in that general vicinity too. It's wet. We've heard a lot about some wells being dug for other purposes, and that's been controversial. Now, we've got 2 more going up here. We're going to have proposed 10 more houses. We got an asphalt road 60 feet wide in a flood zone where water runoff is going to be extreme all the time. With those 10 homes, we're going to have 10 septic tanks and 10 sewer drainage fields. And all these neighbors out there moved out to Ag 5 secure in the fact that they wouldn't have 10 houses on 25 acres next to them, together with everything that comes with it. Now, I'm not anti-subdivision. Heck, I live in one. But folks who have a choice and who move out into the country and specifically choose to live in Ag 5 ought to have that choice honored. Otherwise, why have we put these codes together? Why do we even bother wasting, no doubt, hundreds of thousands of dollars overall in compiling the code and having consultants and so forth, if every time somebody wants to vary from it, we're going to do that? These people moved out there and wanted to live a life that was not congested. And I put it to you that 10 homes, even on 25 acres, where folks are used to having no more than 1 per 5 acres, is too much for them. They all say it. They all oppose it. I mean, it is remarkable to look through this list of folks who are in opposition. And again, I know this is an appointed board, so what voters think may not mean anything, and it probably shouldn't. You should be above that. But these are 45 or 50, and that's just the folks on here. They may have families of your fellow citizens that moved out into the county secure in the knowledge that you all would protect the rights and privileges that they expected to enjoy in an Ag 5 district. These people are really worried about the increased erosion that this property development, this proposed development will add. There are already issues out there, but these folks have learned to live with that and they've adapted. You've even got a little area, and I don't think it's that significant, of actual wetlands, according to FEMA. in this area. But when you look through the 8 factors that are in the development, what I find remarkable is that none of the factors really directly address the people in the area. Everyone in the area, virtually everyone, all these people who have signed up in opposition think that this will have a negative impact on the quality of their life out there. And that ought to be important. That ought to be more important than a lot of other things that don't do anything but ring a cash register. There's a quality of life issue, and the quality of life that these folks expected when they moved into an Ag 5 area is going to be disturbed by this development. And if I've known or learned one thing, once there's a little bit of a crack, that crack gets wider. And before long, we're going to have apartments. And I mean, if there's no restriction, if we don't stand for maintaining these different designations, what's to stop everybody and have them out there with, he mentioned R25 and R40 and all. And again, I don't know what all that means, but it sure sounds like it means there's going to be a lot more houses if you go for those areas. There are those areas in Bulloch County, and there are places to live in those areas. There are R80 areas that folks can go to. And admittedly, that's getting close to 2 acres. Takes about 90,000 square feet to make an acre, so 80,000 isn't far off from 2. About 44,000 make an acre, I'm sorry. 80 is not off from 2, but still, it's not Ag 5. These folks moved out there, they depended on that. They see the trouble coming in a low area that's in a flood zone, that's going to have 10 people, twice as many as could be there under any other circumstances on a 5-acre tract. And all of that comes with it. The extra traffic, like I say, the extra asphalt, that's going to hasten the water running and the erosion that comes along with that. The 10 septic tanks, the 10 drain fields, God only knows what impact that's going to have. The 2 wells that are going to be sucking even more water out of what we've been told is a supply that is in peril. The aquifer is going to be reduced by so many feet. And so what are you going to do when these 40 people come in and tell you that these other 10 people next door have used up all the water? And it's because you said it was okay. And I realize we don't have control, none of us do, over what natural resources are available. But I do think we have some input over how to manage those resources. And I think the objections that these folks have are very well founded. They're very concerned about this development that they consider to be excessive, that they consider to be exposing them to some peril. And they respectfully ask that you reconsider the staff's suggested approval, especially in light of what I've talked about earlier with the subdivision regs and the flood damage prevention, and recommend to the board that they deny this request to amend the ordinance and increase the population density in this area.
Mr. Classens, would you like to have these back for the county commissioners? As long as we keep one for our record.
If y'all just want one, that's fine. We'll take these, we'll save 3. I just talked
That'll
about
help you.
natural resources.
Yeah, you get to keep that one. There are like 22 seconds left, so there are.
Mr. Carty gave me the 30 minutes that he had left over.
But I apologize, but I cannot read one of these from McCoy Road. Who is?
It'll help if Mr. Hammerstein speaks so that he can verify the signatures for you. I mean, the names.
But I'm not sure about it. Somebody signed up to speak. I'm sorry, I cannot read.
He did.
Oh, that was him.
It may be his name you can't read.
Greg Hammerstein?
This is the first
No, I've got Gene Hammerstein, but this is after Mr. Claessen's.
I was the one that signed everybody up.
Oh, I've got those, yeah, but this is, no, somebody behind you.
Last name Halter?
Or it looks like a Walter, we can't,
Walter,
Michael,
Halter.
Michelle, we can't,
Well, I'm Michelle Halter, but I did not sign up to speak,
Halter.
but I do oppose for it because I do live off McCoy Road.
okay, then this is what you said, that's signed up, okay.
Yeah, I called and spoke with someone, but I didn't sign up to read.
Somebody signed you up. They did. And a Mr. Stevie Arnett signed up. I just want to make sure that those of you, and a Margaret Arnold, that, yeah, that everything was covered that you wanted to heard said.
One thing I'd like to say,
All right, you've got 22 seconds, so please come forward. And this is your, Mr. Arnett.
thank you for listening in. Bulloch County, everything the gentleman said, I agree with 100%. But I want to recognize maybe y'all, Bulloch County is known for their peanuts, their cotton, soybean. The farmers plan on this. We enjoy seeing that grow in the fields, going by it every day, looking at the fields, seeing crops being grown. What I'm trying to say is, if we start with the Ag 5 and start cutting all these fields out, what's going to happen with the name of the peanut in Brooklet? I can't think of the name. I'm having a brain for it.
Peanut Festival?
Peanut Festival. That's going to be tapered down, starting, like he said. You open that crack up, we already see it on 67 fields up for sale. So that's all I want to say is, I agree with everything there, but our kids and our grandkids would love to see the fields other than asphalt, concrete, the woods is, we got to keep something. So I'm standing on that part.
Thank you, sir. We
Thank you,
appreciate it. Mr. Patton, you have some time left to answer some of the questions that may have been brought forward.
Madam, we understand we're not going to please everyone in this area. And we've had several calls for approval. The concerns of the flood zone A, or unnumbered A in that area, we looked into, but all the houses in that area are unnumbered A, and, well, they're there. So, I mean, and it's a simple construction thing. We would contact a surveyor. They would come out and set a benchmark for each house. The county has a 1-foot freeboard, which we would have to build 1 foot above that number. If it's a 19, we would have to build it quote unquote 20. That don't mean 20 foot in the air. That means the 20-foot elevation mark with the 1 foot added to the NFIP standards. So we've looked into that. The septic is obviously regulated by the soils. If the soils are approved, the DPH approves the permit for that area. The wetlands are along the bottom perimeter. If you're looking at the map, we've looked into those. We don't plan on getting into the wetlands, so there'll be no impact there. We ask you to look at the staff review. The staff has been very diligent in what they've done. That's what we hire them for as county citizens. The density in the area is a minimal impact for this area. It's located 1.7 miles from I-16. James, is there a possible way to get the future development map put back up there other than what we're seeing now?
While he's looking at that, is any of this land right now presently in cultivation?
No. If you looked at the photos, it was overgrown and just being used at this point for nothing. Now, I don't know how long it's been like that, but there's some growth to it.
Mr. Patton, on your road construction, y'all gonna do ditches or how you run off?
I believe that this one at 10 qualifies for just a crowned road. I don't know that ditches are required, but if they are, we'll simply put those in. Whatever the county ordinance requires is what we're going to do. So if you look at this area, that whole area where that star is, that is projected from the 2040 comprehensive plan to be a suburban corridor. So not only are we well inside that, Well, there's a whole lot of other properties in there too, that we see. And I agree, once you open a crack, it's going to continue, but this crack's open. And unfortunately, at this point, with everything going on around us, it may continue. Unfortunate for some, fortunate for other. How it ends, no one will know. So, and the aerial, can we go back a couple to the aerial of the current parcels? Yeah, if you look directly across the street from this parcel, that was once an Ag 5 parcel. And it is now split into 4 different parcels.
It's all family.
Exactly what I'm getting to. And under the Family Provision Act, you're allowed to divide a 5-acre tract into 5 parcels as long as those are family members. So on 25 acres, we could end up with 25 houses, no paved road, and really no ordinances, no buffers, nothing of that nature. That's not what we want to do either. Rezoning it to R80 would prevent that to being anything less than 10 acres, or the 10 lots that we're proposing in R80. There could be no manufactured homes. It would all have to be single-family stick-built homes. The only time you could get a manufactured home in there at that point would be to come back before the Board of Commissioners, and they would have to approve it. So with that being said, if y'all have any further questions.
There was a condition. Are you familiar with the condition that the county?
Yeah, there was 2. One was that they all had to be single-family stick-built homes, and I don't.
Built, have a site-built conventional.
Correct.
So
No question there.
would the chairman yield?
Yes.
Mr. Patton, in light of the flood zone layer that does show up on the property, what investigation did y'all do into any kind of base flood elevation for, establishing that to potentially remove those parcels from the flood zone?
We didn't look at removing those. In a flood zone, you can build in a flood zone. You just have to build above the flood zone levels. So a surveyor, again, would come out and set that benchmark, and then we would have to build above that. Now, we can't build in any wetlands, but we can build in a flood zone.
So if we placed a condition to establish a base flood elevation to remove those properties from the flood zone, which I think would be beneficial for those 10 property owners that would buy that property.
Well, I don't know that you can remove them without backfilling them and going through quite a process.
And maybe you can't remove it, but if the study showed, the hydrology study showed that obviously GIS layers are drawn on a map and carried over from time, decades, it may not be that the flood zone, there has to be some more investigation and what I'm saying is, the board may need to consider, having that flood zone, either the elevation established so that, we're sure as to what the flood zone is. Because again, it's just a layer on a map at this point, so, which it may be costly and cost prohibitive to the development, but I think if there is some credence there to it being in the flood zone, so.
And if I may, Mr. Pope, on any lot in Bulloch County that may be in a flood zone, what is done prior to any type of construction, you have to get a surveyor to go out and look at that property, and they will establish that flood zone. And then in the county's flood ordinance, you would have to build above or to the freeboard of that area. And that is standard, whether it be here or any other county in Georgia. Or matter of fact, the NFIP is a national standard that you have to build to as any contractor or any private citizen or anything of that nature. Everyone is held to that same standard throughout the U.S., and that's part of your FEMA regulations. So removing it from the flood zone, you can't really remove a house from a flood zone without doing a LOMA and several other things that really isn't really a possibility. And to give an example of that, if you're in, say, Savannah on the coastal and you have to build 20 foot off the ground, the only way to get that house out of that flood zone would be to put 20 foot of dirt on that, then add 2 more foot of dirt on top of that to get out of that flood zone, which would look kind of crazy in the neighborhood to have 20 foot of dirt piled on the lot. And then, and Savannah's got a 2 foot freeboard, so you have to be 22 foot to the top of slab to build on it. So it's kind of a catch-22 in what we do, but a surveyor would set that base flood elevation
That could vary from lot to lot.
100%.
And as we're a recommending board, whatever this board decides to recommend to the county commissioners, you've got some time to answer some of these questions, because I feel like some of these adjoining property owners have more questions that would like to be answered.
Sure.
So you'd have a couple weeks to cover some of the bases there.
And we've sent out an email and, a written letter that included an email address and my personal cell phone where they could call to see what we could do to reach some kind of compromise, but I don't think there was much willingness for a compromise. It was all or nothing.
Again, like I said, whatever this board decides to do, recommend, but you've got some time to work with these folks.
Sure.
And answer some of the questions we have about the flood zone, because I think that is a concern.
Sure, and we can get that together from Mr. Pope.
All right. Are there any questions from this board for Mr. Patton? If there are none, then we'll entertain a motion of recommendation.
Madam Chair, I've got the 2023 flood zone map, which is the most recent, if that helps.
Would that, give it to Mr.
James,
Mr. Pope?
did you pull it up for me?
He had it to Mr. Pope, and he's got,
Well,
he can put it on the,
May I ask a procedural question, please? Procedural
all
question?
right, this is Mr. Hammerstein who's asking the question, Mr. Gene Hammerstein.
It's Greg.
Greg Hammerstein.
Greg.
Greg.
Jeans, his brother.
Oh, okay, Greg Hammerstein, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Procedural question. If there is an error in the departmental review report, how do we go about getting that corrected or addressed?
We could ask, the county attorney, we could ask to have it tabled.
Well, what is the error?
Currently, the report states that on this specific topic, it states that under the environmental impact, I'm sorry, it says, wetlands and flood zones, development as proposed assumes disturbance of 0.0 acres of wetland areas and/or flood zone areas, when in fact the entire field, the entire 25 acres, with the exception of a tiny bit, is in a floodplain, in a flood zone. So I'm not sure what the basis for that statement was, that nothing is in a floodplain and the entire field is in a floodplain. That's the whole basis of the concern of the adjoining landowners. If you fill that field up with concrete and homes, that water is gonna go somewhere else, because these gentlemen that live next to that property are already being flooded from natural rainfall.
What page is that on?
Page 4.
It's page 88 of the agenda
Ordinance.
docket. So it's all.
James, what's your response to that? I guess it
well-
would disturb flood zone.
well, no, I
areas if
think
that's
we would amend that. We'd have to amend it. And this board may want to
Well, he's talking about, no, just
defer until the
something.
overlay is shown on the sketch map, just to
Well, I
show.
think the procedurally, I don't know that there's any formal procedure, but Mr. Pope
Well, I think,
recognizes that we can just strike out and/or flood zone areas.
and we'll take a closer look at that before the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah,
But
so-
again, I mean, if this board felt, if you wanted to see it on the sketch map for the development, I mean, that's up to that, have the applicant do that and come back, but.
If we're gonna correct the statement, instead of 0.0, we probably ought to put 25 acres of flood zone. Although it may be.
Well,
three
but
and a
it
half.
should be 0.0 acres of wetland areas, right? You're not gonna build in the wetlands, so.
Well, it says wetlands or.
Yeah, but he's saying strike that out. doesn't he?
Right, you strike that out.
But it doesn't even address the flood zone issue if you do that.
yeah, then you're excluding the whole issue.
Well, I mean,
All right,
James, I think if you can correct that by the next meeting, I know.
we can
We
make a
can, we
recommendation.
can probably make a recommendation either way and then have it corrected for the commissioners.
And sure, I mean, we'll correct that, and our recommendation, I mean, it may very well change based on it, but I do want to speak with one or two of the staff members that, you know, that we talked about with the development, and just make sure. Because we have had, well, I'll leave it at that, but.
Well, with that being said, if there are any questions from this board, if not, we'll entertain a motion of recommendation.
Motion to deny.
All right, we have a motion from Mr. Bath to deny, a second from Ms. Trimble. All those in favor? All right, all those opposed? We have one in opposition, so we will recommend denial to the county commissioners, April 1st, 5:30 in this room. And this will give y'all some time to work out some things. All right, thank you. You may be excused. This would be a good time. If anybody wants to leave, you're welcome to stay, but you may leave at this point.
Thank
All right, with that being said, we have an item number 7 that we will not be hearing. It is since this is an existing subdivision, this taxes, the streetlight district, will be heard by the county commissioners, not us. So do we need to take a vote on that, Jeff, or should we just not hear it?
well, I guess you can just vote to remove it from the agenda.
Move it from the agenda. So I
Yeah.
need a motion to remove it from the agenda. Moving from Ms. Trimble, a second from Mr. Lane. All those in favor of removal? That's unanimous. All right, the item is removed from our agenda.
So, Madam Chair, can I just clarify that it'll go to Board of Commissioners at the next meeting, right? The streetlight,
Right,
Mr.
yeah, it's got to have a hearing though, right?
it does.
So, and
Yes.
I don't think there's any advertising requirement, like certain days ahead, so we'll just advertise it in next Thursday's paper,
Okay.
which I think will be fine.
Yeah,
I've got
we-
another one that needs to go too, so.
Well, that, he just said, since it's an existing subdivision, that's the terminology, right? Since it's existing.
Right, the ones y'all hear, the new developments.
Or new
Where the
developments.
developer applies, but for some reason, the ordinance doesn't. If it's an existing subdivision, it goes directly to the commissioners.
All right, and if there's any clarification needed further, we'll hear from the county staff. All right, is there any other item or business that we need to address tonight? If not, is there a motion for adjournment? Mr. Lane, second from Mr. Bath. All those in favor? This meeting is adjourned.